You're listening to The Voluntary Life, where you can hear ideas for finding freedom in an unfree world. Visit thevoluntarylife.com to connect with the show and hear all past episodes. Here's your host, Jake.
Hi everyone, it's Jake here. Welcome to The Voluntary Life. This is a productivity episode, and I want to talk about a very important and elusive topic for anyone interested in productivity, which is finding your purpose in life. If you're interested in productivity, and especially if you've read David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, which is an incredibly influential book about productivity and one that I find very helpful, then you will be familiar with this idea of finding your purpose in life as a part of the overall approach to productivity and to organizing your life that David Allen talks about in Getting Things Done. So he has these horizons of focus, as he calls them. And the idea of that Getting Things Done approach to productivity is that you start off at the very day-to-day practical level of organizing your tasks and the things that you're working on. And basically you clear the decks of all of the clutter that is stopping you from focusing on more important things first. And the way that David Allen talks about it, you then can, once you've done that, clearing the decks, you can then go on to higher horizons of focus in life and look towards goals for the future and vision, and ultimately your purpose in life. And I found that very fascinating when I first read about it from David Allen. It sounds great to clear the decks and focus on what's important and identify your purpose in life. I also found that David Allen often left that bit of getting this done a little bit vague. He talked about it being a very personal choice, what your purpose in life is, which I totally understand and makes sense, but it always was left a bit vague for me. And sometimes when I thought about it, I would imagine that aspect of productivity as being this kind of nirvana you get to once you've cleared all the clutter from your desk, that one day you will get to identify your higher purpose in life, and that would be a very peaceful, blissful state of kind of, you can imagine someone in the lotus position with a little smile on their face, having cleared the decks and really thinking about the most important things in life. But actually, when I reflect on this and think about what finding my purpose in life has looked like and what it means to me, I don't think it's nearly as easy and fun as that nirvana type image of finding your purpose in life. I think it's actually very challenging and emotionally draining, and it can be quite exhausting, but still very fulfilling. And it's something that I still think about. How can I clarify my own purpose in life more clearly? And what does it even mean to have a purpose in life? So that's what I want to talk about in this episode. I'm going to share with you my thoughts on that. And I'd like to share some really positive things about it as well, as also manage some expectations about what it really means to find your purpose in life. First of all, though, I want to say a very big thanks to my two new patrons this week. They are Scott M. and Sana J. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I am. Thank you very much anyway, Sana or San. I really appreciate your support, and yours, Scott, and all my other patrons. And if you are interested in becoming a patron, you can find out more by clicking the link in the show notes, which you can access directly on your podcast player, or by going to my website, thevoluntarylife.com, or directly to my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/thevoluntarylife. And if you would like to help support the show by becoming a patron, you'll get access to all of the bonus episodes. There's 54 bonus episodes now, and the latest one that I just released is actually relevant to this episode. It's a productivity themed one too. And in that, I'm having a discussion with patrons on a live stream, and we're talking about strategies for deciding what to do next. And I'm sharing two very different strategies for deciding what to do next. So if you enjoy productivity topics, there's a new bonus episode that you'll definitely find interesting. So back to this episode about finding purpose in life. What does it even mean to have a purpose in life? As I said, I very much appreciate David Allen's Getting Things Done approach to productivity, but I always found this level, this horizon of focus in productivity to be a bit vague, this whole purpose in life that you're supposed to get to once you've cleared the decks of all of the day-to-day clutter in terms of your tasks and so forth. Here's what I think having a purpose in life really means. It means being on a mission. It means having an overwhelmingly important project, one that you go all in on in your commitment. And everything else in your life has to revolve around that project or commitment. And often, sometimes this can be something that can pull you away from your friends and contemporaries who might not be as passionate or interested in this particular thing as you. And generally, it's not easy. It's often a big and ambitious goal. But having a purpose in life means being driven. It means being a driven person. It means having massive enthusiasm and passion for something, an internal motivation to do something. And that's something, as I said, I think of it in terms of a big project, like a big mission that you feel you are on, something that you want to do with your life. Now, the good news, I think, is that this isn't something that you find once in life. You find your purpose and that's it. Because I think your purpose can change over the course of your life. Mine certainly has, if I think of purpose in these terms. So, for example, I've talked a lot on this podcast about my experience of founding a startup, growing a startup, eventually selling that business. And that was an all-consuming passion of mine. That was something that was the most important focus of my life from my late 20s to my late 30s. For 10 years, that was what I thought about every day. It was the real focus that I put my energy into. And if having a purpose in life means anything, that was my purpose in life, was to build this business and to make it a success and to do great work and eventually to grow it to the point where I was able to sell it. And at that point, my purpose shifted and I moved on in life towards financial independence being my purpose. And then after that, personal development. And then after that, getting married and having a family. So my purpose has changed over the years. But I don't think it's as hard to think of what your purpose in life is if you simply think about it as having a massively important project to you, something that you dedicate yourself to. That means often you have to exclude other things from your life. And in those terms, having a purpose in life or identifying your purpose in life doesn't mean that you feel blissful and content. It's not peaceful and easy, at least in my experience. It can be quite stressful and it can be emotionally quite draining because just because you've cleared your life of all of the day-to-day clutter tasks by being really organized in terms of your productivity system, that doesn't mean that if you can get to focus on the things that really matter, life's just going to be an easy breeze. It actually means that you get to focus on the really big challenges, the really important challenges in life. And that's not necessarily fun on a day-to-day level. For example, if you choose a purpose in life, if you have something that is an overwhelming project, one thing that's definitely going to happen is that you are going to have to say no a lot. I remember when I worked for a very large multinational company, one of the executives in that company, who was very high up in the company, said something very interesting to me. He said that his job was really just to decide on a direction for a few very important topics and then say no to everything else. And that meant every day he just said no to a whole load of stuff. Because working in a big corporation like that, there were lots and lots of people, lots and lots of ideas, and lots of new, potentially interesting opportunities would come up on a day-to-day basis. And his job as a leader was essentially just to say no a lot. And I know what he meant, because if you are really focused on something in life, you have to exclude a lot of other potentially interesting opportunities. It means you're not available to just go with the flow on anything that comes up because you're on a mission. You've got a purpose. You're trying to do something. And very often that does mean that you can seriously neglect areas of your life by focusing on what you consider to be your higher purpose. For example, think of the personal lives of highly driven people. If you are an athlete and you have a mission in life or a purpose in life to compete at some elite level in athletics, then you are probably not going to have a lot of time for personal commitments. You're probably going to neglect your relationships. Think of someone like Steve Jobs, whose personal life was a disaster. Now, this is not to say that if you have a purpose in life, that it's a license to behave badly towards people in your life. And I'm not saying that this is an excuse for the way that Steve Jobs behaved in his personal life, but I'm just saying driven people tend to focus on something to the exclusion of other things in their life. And if you identify a purpose in life, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be super balanced. It actually can mean that you know what you're trying to do more clearly, and therefore you have to say no to a lot of stuff all the time because you're moving towards your purpose. So being clearer about purpose in life, I don't think necessarily makes life more fun. It can be more fulfilling, but it can also lead to new emotional challenges. However, everybody wants to have a sense of purpose in life, don't they? I mean, I think it's actually something that makes people feel fulfilled and gives life a sense of meaning. And that's why I think it's really important to identify it for yourself, not to let somebody else give it to you, but to identify what your own purpose in life is. And for me, the positive thing about it is you can change what you consider to be the purpose of your life. It doesn't have to be something that you discover once and then stick to. Through my life, what I think of as my overriding purpose has changed. And I think it's really important that it can change, because sometimes you can dedicate yourself to something that turns out to be a really bad mission or a really bad purpose in life. When I was a teenager, I was very committed to the idea of becoming a communist, of being a revolutionary communist. I went to meetings, I read vast amounts of literature on the subject, I sold newspapers. I got really interested in this and really tried to immerse myself in that whole political world. And I became totally disillusioned with the whole endeavor and with all of the ideas. And something that I had thrown myself into to the exclusion of lots of other things. So I was in a band at the time. I stopped playing music. I got really interested in politics. I was starting to have serious relationships at the time, but I was very much focused on this idea of getting involved in politics. So I put my heart and soul into this endeavor, and then realized that this was actually a terrible mission to have in life and not the purpose in life that was meaningful to me. And it was quite hard to change tracks. But my point here is I'm very glad that I stopped having that as my purpose in life, because it opened me up to much more constructive and positive purposes in life. And I still learned a huge amount from that experience. One of the reasons that I'm so anti-political now is because I tried so hard to be political back when I was a teenager and became utterly disillusioned in the process. After that, I've had different purposes in life at different stages of my life. So I mentioned founding a business was definitely something that was my purpose in life and the mission that I was on when I did that. And then it was to become financially independent. And now my purpose is much more personal. I went through a stage where I really wanted to focus on personal development. And now I consider my purpose in life ultimately is to be a good partner to my wife and to be a good parent to my daughter. That's my mission now. And that's the overridingly important project. That means everything else has to take second place to that. So I don't see purpose in life as being something that has to be about achieving something external and flashy. It can be a very personal goal to do with your relationships and to do with, building your family, for example. In fact, if you're going to have kids, if you're going to get married and have kids, that better be your major mission in life. That better be your purpose, because what's the point otherwise? Otherwise, why have kids if that isn't going to become your main purpose in life to be a good parent to them? Why bother being together with someone and getting married to someone if your purpose isn't to be the best partner that you can be? So I just wanted to share some of these thoughts with you about finding your purpose in life, because I have found that to be quite a vague part of a lot of discussions of productivity. But ultimately, this is the big goal. This is why we want to clear the decks of the more mundane day-to-day clutter in life so that you can focus on things that really matter to you. And I hope that some of these thoughts of mine can be helpful for you in taking some of the pressure off about finding a purpose in life, because it can change. You don't have to find it once. It's not like you find your purpose in life and that's that. Why not have a purpose in life now that might not be the same purpose in your life 10 years from now? Why not take the pressure off and choose something that you can feel massively enthusiastic about and get really, really committed to now, like starting a business or whatever it is, and then have a different phase in life later. You can enjoy being a workaholic for a little bit of your life, and you can also enjoy devoting a huge amount of time to your family and your kids later on, for example. I think life is healthier and richer and more varied and diverse if you have different missions that you dedicate yourself to rather than just one. And it doesn't have to be an external mission as well. It can be something quite personal, like your relationship or your family. So I hope you found that interesting. I'd love to hear what you think. Good luck in identifying your mission in life and finding your purpose.
Thank you for listening to The Voluntary Life. If you like this podcast, please show your support by becoming a patron of The Voluntary Life on Patreon. Your support will help to grow and improve the show, and you'll get access to a treasure trove of rewards, including bonus episodes. Visit thevoluntarylife.com to learn more.